Hello, I'm Noel Kennedy, and I've started a new podcast called Unassuming Heroes. It is about those people in education who provide progress for students socially, emotionally, and academically. Three things that I think is absolutely vital for society, for kids to understand their place within society, and for them to drive forward and be highly successful, irrespective of background. In the podcast, I'm trying my best to try and find those people outside of the mainstream classroom. So there's about 650,000 teachers in the country, and there is a plethora more people who inspire, motivate, and help drive forward progress. The reason for this is that a few years ago, I was the principal at a school where the results were incredible in the summer. And we came back in September and we had CPD planned, and the staff were all in the room, but not all of them. And I'll tell you in a second that. But the teachers were there, the TAs were there, the middle leaders, the senior leaders. I think we even might have had a visit from the central team, and they were in the room as well. And everybody was celebrating, and they deserved to. They absolutely deserved to. I left the room feeling all proud of myself, and then I realised that the front office, we're doing front office stuff in the front office. The estates team were doing estates team stuff around the school. The IT team were up in their room doing IT stuff, and I can go on. Safeguarding weren't in the room because they'd already started dealing with the safeguarding issue. We had somebody who was doing Duke of Edinburgh, and she was already out getting tents prepared for mid-September when Duke of Edinburgh silver would start, bronze and silver would start. And it dawned on me that outside of my little bubble of teachers, middle leaders, senior leaders, I didn't really have a clue about what was going on in education. I started in 2006. It's nearly 20 years. And it was only a few years ago I realized that I popped my bubble and I realized there's a world out there that I'm just unaware of. So what I'm trying to do in this podcast is bring to light all those other people who do things outside of the classroom. I'm aiming in series 1 that this will only be 10 to 12 minutes. So it's only scratching the surface. So it might feel a little bit unfulfilling that I'm not going deeper in the conversation with these people. But if this goes well, I plan to do a series 2 where I do that. Everybody that comes on the show is open to conversation. Contact me through LinkedIn or ask me for the email address and I'll share it with you. And I'm trying to just bring that wide variety. I'm going to ask them what their purpose is, what has got them into education, what sort of motivates them. And I'm also going to ask them a really difficult question of what's their superpower. I've kind of found in education that we're not very good sometimes. We're not very good sometimes at saying what we're really good at. And what I also want to do with this podcast is highlight some people who are incredibly good at their job and have amazing superpowers and are there to help, to discuss, to advise, or just to chat if we ever need them. Remember, popping our own little bubbles and having a look outside. This week, we've got a lady called Louise. She is a middle leader, a classroom practitioner, but moreover, she is a podcaster. She has a show on Teacher Talk Radio on Tuesday night at 6:00. You should listen. It's insightful. It's knowledgeable. It's discussions with passion, and as an educator, I do listen in because it's important. CPD. Louise will talk about her passion for kids doing well, socially, emotionally, and academically. She wants them to be successful as people, but she'll also talk that the role that she does as the classroom teacher. Naturally, kids gravitate towards her to divulge safeguarding concerns, and she's had to learn to be resilient to that and manage that, and obviously follow the right protocols afterwards. Have a listen. Hopefully, enjoy it, and then the next week's one will come out as well. If you do want the chat, and if you do want to be on the show, please drop me a LinkedIn message. I do have about 20 people at the minute, so I'll work through them as quick as I can. Enjoy. Thank you very much. Hey, Louise, how are you?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. How are you?
So the intro just happened. It's told us all about your background, but really quickly, you are the head of social sciences. You are a podcaster on Teacher Talk Radio. Is there anything else you think the world needs to know you as?
So currently in my school at the moment, aside from being head of social sciences, I've got quite a large focus on oracy, and I've been running some projects there, kind of looking at empowering student voice and also staff voice. I'm also a governor at a local faith school in the area, but yeah, that's me.
Nice. So I want to get to the crux of the this whole podcast as quick as possible. But before we get there, before we find out what your educational superpower is, I would really like to know, because you are a teacher on the ground. You, um, I don't know, the best way to describe it is that you're at the coal face. You have a load of lessons every day. You got a load of kids coming to your class every day. Lunch times, break times, after school, and before school, you will be on duty. Pretty much that's your day. Is that a typical day for you, or is there more nuance to it than I've given you credit for?
No, I think you're not far off it, to be honest. I mean, obviously, when you're ahead, middle leadership, we still have pretty jam-packed timetables. And like you say, we still do lunch duties, break duties, gate duties at the end of the day, whilst leading a team. So timetables are rammed, but obviously we start early, we finish late, supporting our team, supporting our students. So we just have a lot more meetings, I think, than I used to have before I was in middle leadership. There's lots of those.
Oh yeah, meetings are great, aren't they? So if your time is taken up so much, so early morning starts, fairly late afternoon finishes, then you throw a little meetings on, you still got to plan on your lessons. What keeps you coming back to education?
The kids,
Yeah,
the kids every time.
and is that so you wake up in the morning? Hopefully it's not too much to disclose, but your back's pretty sore at the minute. You wake up Monday morning, your back's sore. That's what forces you to get up and get out of bed and go into school.
Yeah, I mean, I usually the first thing I think is, oh, what am I teaching today? Who are the students that I'm seeing today? And don't get me wrong, we have that moment where we just think, particularly in September, when some classes come up that we may not have met yet, particularly like Key Stage 3, and we haven't had a chance to build those relationships. I think, okay, which classes am I teaching? Is it classes I've not yet met?
Yeah.
Do I have relationships with those? How can I build them? But I mean, I tend to, if I'm honest, I get really excited. I teach primarily GCSE and A level. So when I wake up, I think, what lessons have I got? And then I usually think, oh, yes, I've got my GCSE groups or I've got my A level groups and I've built relationships with them. It actually tends to be easier to build relationships with those students because I'm an option subject. So they proactively picked to study my subjects. So I know there that they want to be in my room, they want to learn. And like I said, I have one-on-one time essentially with students that just love the subjects, that actually love being in my room.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of what makes me get up and think, oh, okay, yes, I'm going to see these. And actually, I'm blessed. Every year, I seem to get cohorts of students that with just bright students, energized students, students that are curious, that are critical thinking, that want to change the world. And you also have students that are just really real. Like, you're going to go in that day and they're going to crack jokes with you and they're going to ask you how you are and they're going to be like, look, you've changed your hair. So I'm waiting for that tomorrow. They'll be like, Miss, there's something different about you. What is it? And I'll be like, it's the hair. But that's what I do think about that first thing. I think, God, who am I teaching? And 9 times out of 10, I'm excited to teach my group.
I think that's the weirdest thing, and walking through the school corridors. Hey, sir, did you have a haircut? Yeah, I had a haircut. Thanks for noticing. It's much shorter.
I have another weird one. I went in last week into one of my shared sociology groups just to kind of see how the kids are getting on. And one shouts, "Hey, Queen, how you doing?" And I'm like, "Okay, hello." I love that. I'm going to come into this room more often. But they do. They notice everything, and I love that about kids. Because you build a relationship with them, they know the second something's different. They buy you gifts if you look sad. They come at break time to be like, "I've missed you." I love that so much.
Yeah, and so if what gets you out of bed is, and getting it, staying in education is the kids. Obviously we've chatted before we come on here. You're going to tell us about what your educational superpower is, and they sort of combine, don't they? Go hand in hand. So what is your ultimate educational superpower?
So my superpower, I didn't even realize that I had. I don't know if I could call it a superpower. I really connect with students and staff that have experienced difficult parts of their life or have had trauma in their life. I've had experienced that myself personally. And when I was at school, we didn't have school counsellors. I mean, I don't know if you had them at your school when you were there, but we didn't have them. We didn't really talk about mental health. I'm pretty sure if, some of the things that I'd experienced, if they'd been flagged, they would have been an issue, and people would have been involved. And I have this kind of ability to see that in other people. Like, I know when I'm talking to somebody, something's happened. And I think I'm quite non-judgmental when it comes to other people with certain things. So, for example, if I'm talking to somebody and somebody gets snappy or angry, I'm quite good at then going away and thinking, why? Why is that person upset? Is it because of me? Is it because something they've been through? What language have I used to trigger them? And I'm quite good at therefore seeing people because I've been through it myself. So yeah, I'm not sure if that counts as a superpower, but I think that's what I'm good at doing.
I think it does. And my next question was going to be, how did you discover it? But you kind of said how you discovered it. You, as you said, had a bit of trauma yourself. So therefore you probably feel an affiliation towards those students that kind of are like you. So you've got that, I don't know, sort of like a kindred spirit type thing where, you notice it. So therefore you notice it. They notice you notice it, and they come and speak to you. It's really tricky that I would really like you to try and bring it to life, but it's hard because that's about individual kids and relationships. Is there any sort of anecdotal story you've got to bring that superpower to life?
It's difficult because obviously a lot of them are safe, as you said, they're safeguarding related. So I don't think I could tell you one specific situation, but I can tell you that I have a lot of students that kind of came into my room to study psychology or sociology or politics. And I'm still in contact with them today, 6, 7, 8 years down the line, because they still feel that they need the support. And I'm very, very happy to give that. So I think, teaching any social science, we're teaching difficult subjects in terms of they touch base for a lot of people. We'll be teaching things about aggression or frustration or domestic violence or sexual abuse, or controlling behaviors in relationships. And before you know it, you've got students staying behind at break time saying, the boyfriend I'm dating, he's telling me I can't wear this. And before you know it, you're having conversations where they're telling you other things about the person that they're dating and how old they are and how they met them. And, the kind of conversations they're having. And you're literally seeing automatically all the controlling behaviors.
Yeah.
And so, you get a lot of disclosures. But that's essentially how I end up inevitably forming strong relationships that stand the test of time.
Yeah, and that's what's really important. Also, you've just made a really good point. You're in a subject that lends itself to disclosure because you're talking about really hard-hitting things. Like, I teach geography. What's a river going to do to...
I don't know, you might fall in it and get stuck. I mean, there are reeds while you're swimming.
We'll talk a bit about glaciation, and then I get a disclosure. But your subject does lend itself to it, and I would assume then that having that superpower, then again, everything just sort of marries quite nicely in your educational world, doesn't it? That you've got affiliation with the students. They see you as someone that they can go and speak to, but also you're knowledgeable on the stuff that they may have a problem with. The caveat that safeguarding stuff will obviously go to your DSL and all that stuff, but you have that ability to let kids sort of open up and talk about things that maybe they might not talk about to anyone else. That's pretty damn cool.
Yeah. Well, in one of my previous schools, I was a pastoral middle leader before I became an academic middle leader. And I was on call going to pick up the students that, didn't want to leave lessons, wouldn't even move for SLT. There were students in my house essentially because I was an assistant head of house. So, I'd be picking up those students that had climbed trees because they didn't want to go to sports day, they jumped fences, So I think that's kind of where that kind of started from. But it's just, even despite the fact I've left, pastoral leadership and moved them into academic, that's still, that ability is still there.
I would argue that climbing trees should definitely be a fixture on every sports day in every school in the country. And I think if climbing trees was one, I would have done pretty well.
Well, I mean, I think it's testament to how good a sports day is if your students want to climb a tree to escape.
I would have done it for that. For that.
Anything but the
Oh,
sprints.
there's a medal involved. I'll climb that tree. Right. Okay. I want to sort of sum this all up. I would like you. You've got 2 minutes, right? And then we're going to say goodbye, right? I would really like you to sum up a piece of sage advice for someone who is either new to education, somebody who's currently in it. It doesn't have to be a teacher. It just needs to be for the sort of like the cloud. What bit of advice would you give to education? And it can be a niche area or it can be globally to education itself. From Louise, what would you want to say to them?
Build a support network. Teaching is hard. Being in education or in leadership, it's going to test you to your limits. I mean, if you're already in it, you know this. You're going to have days where you come home literally broken. You haven't eaten, you haven't slept. A student's told you something pretty awful. You're worried about something. It's tough at all angles. The admin, the teaching lessons, the amount of assessments we have to mark. You need a support system of people that genuinely love you and care for you and want to see you fly, so that whenever you're having those moments and you're doubting yourself, you can literally just ring someone or just nip down to the next office. Or what I do is nip down to another department and I'm like, oh, this is happening. I feel like I've made a massive mistake. Or occasionally I'll nip down to safeguarding, but help, I need some support. Those support networks for me are crucial, because some days I don't think I'd be through some of those days without those people literally propping me up.
That's really cool. Louise, thank you for coming on my little podcast. It's lovely to see you.
Well, thank you so much for having me, and I wish it every success. It sounds really exciting.